So I just made €120 profit flipping these two monitors, and I'll show you how you can do the same. So I found this monitor on Facebook Marketplace a while ago for just €30, and I knew I'd be able to sell it for at least 70 locally. So I was pretty happy with that one. This other monitor I found was further out of the city, but it was also a pretty good deal. It was 1440p and 144Hz, but a bit of a gamble because I'd never flipped a monitor this high end before. So once I got bored of these back home, I made sure to turn them on to test and see if everything was working. I make sure to check the screens to see if they turn on, and also their stands. For ports, I usually just test with the HDMI port, and for the USB ports I check them for power, but they usually don't give any data unless you have a USB type B cable plugged in, which no one ever gives you, so I make sure to mention that in the ad. Once that's done, I usually just test on myself to see if they have any issues over longer periods of time, but in my experience they never really do. So to list the monitors, I have a very basic format. First, I just say the model of the monitor and that it's in good condition, as well as any highlight features like gaming or 4K. Then I go into the specs. Start with the good specs to keep them interested, and it's also a good idea to mention basic compatibility and ports. Also, if there's anything wrong or missing with the monitor, make sure to state that, because scamming is bad. It's normal to include the stand and power cable, but video cables and USB cables are nice bonuses which you can mention in the ad. Okay, so when it comes to finding a seller, you kind of just have to wait. It can take anywhere from a day to 2 months depending on your local market and your pricing, of course. One thing I really underestimated was the number of people who are just willing to pay asking price without haggling. So I would say that it's better to put your prices not much higher than your lowest, because it's better to actually get messages than wonder why no one is contacting you. And of course, if it is a super niche item, then it might take a while to sell and you might get a bunch of low balls from people like me. For the two monitors, I actually got buyers pretty quickly. The gaming monitor got sold in 2 days, and the Dell Office monitor got a buyer in a couple of days too, but we could only meet up after 2 weeks. If it's taking you really long to sell it, or if the offers you're getting are really low, then unless it's a really niche item, you've probably listed it for too much. In situations like this, you just kind of have to lower your bare minimum price to see where it goes from there, because oftentimes a small change in price can really change how long it takes for an item to get sold. If you are only breaking even though, then I would say it's better to just wait it out. Hopefully once you've actually gotten a buyer, doing the deal is pretty simple. Meet anywhere really, your house, their house, a cafe, wherever is convenient. If they want to test it, make sure you or the other person is bringing a computer, and from there you shouldn't really have any problems. Top tip though, put the money you get from the sale in one pocket and any money you already had in another pocket to avoid any confusion when you're counting the money. I have learned this from experience. So I was able to sell the gaming monitor for 160, giving me a nice profit of €60, and I was able to sell the Dell monitor for 90. Even though we had originally agreed on 80, the guy decided to give me asking price. So that was another €60 profit, which gives us a total of 120 for what was honestly not a whole load of work. Now the question is, how often should you be doing this? Well, I'm limited by my market, so whenever I see a good deal, I go and pick it up. But if you have a better market, you can be more selective with which ones you get. Here are some top tips to make sure you can do this successfully. So make sure that when you're actually picking a monitor that is somewhat modern, it should have a HDMI port and at least be 1080p. It is also nice to have a bezel-less design and perhaps a USB-C port. I have made a full guide on this separately, so check that video out if you're interested. Higher end monitors do bring in a bit more profit, so I would give them preference. It is important to remember that even if a monitor isn't priced extraordinarily well, it could still be a good deal if you can get the price down. Even though I hate lowballers, you should lowball people in hopes that you can actually find someone who is flexible with price. Usually these are people who are just moving out or want to get rid of the item as quick as possible. When people try to haggle with you, it should all happen online and not when they actually come and pick it up. And that goes both ways. A good rule of thumb is that if you're meeting up, you should buy the item unless something that wasn't mentioned in the ad or a conversation comes up. That's pretty much it in terms of what I know. I am constantly learning myself, so do subscribe to see more flipping videos and tips.